All right, go ahead.
All right, and welcome. Call to order.
Hi, I was wondering if I could place an order that I'll pick up in about 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Get enough for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, let me call to order this Cinco de Mayo, May 5th of 21, the Dsca meeting to order, please. My first meeting to chair as your president, and of which is an incredible honor. And in starting this meeting, I want to pay homage one more time to Eileen Normal and the fantastic job she did as your president, and the many presidents of Dsca before her, some on this call. So it's an honor for me to preside over the meeting, and I will try and do you folks well. So with this said, Patrick, we want to do a roll call and ensure we have a quorum.
Yes, please.
Patrick, you're here.
Yep.
Jamie?
Here.
Okay, Clark? I think I
Here.
said Clark. Peter?
Peter's
Fanning?
muted.
Got on mute. Sorry. Had a fire engine going by the window. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Peter. Allen, you're here, I think.
Here.
Okay, Bob Perillo?
Here.
Yeah, okay, and Kathy, I think I'm seeing you.
Yes, I'm here.
And then Ken Sheelan.
Here.
Okay, all right. Well, we have a quorum, obviously, and with that said, I guess it's customary next to have the secretary's report. Jamie, the minutes, shall we, those have been circulated, and are there any comments to those?
Not for me.
Okay, I think I was okay with it. May we have consensus then on the adoption of the minutes, please? Everybody,
Yes.
okay, raise your hand if you're okay. Okay. Consider this approved. Thank you, Jane. Treasurer's report. Clark, can you show me, please?
Yes, the balance in our checking account is $16,102.55.
Okay, good. I'll have to find a way to spend some of that one of these days when things get a little better. So I'm sure Jamie and others will have some ideas there. Moving ahead, because we have a pretty full agenda today. Jamie, would you like to introduce our special guest that we're thrilled to have to speak with us? So I know you would like to give an introduction here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this is, we wanted to share a special presentation with you. It'll be a short little video, and then she's going to take us on a tour around the studio. This is Lemus Bolaños Wilmot, and she is the co-founder and artistic director for Sarasota Contemporary Dance. So are you there, Lemus?
I am.
All right. So you want to get started with the video?
Oh, you want me to play the video?
No, I'm going to have Patrick start.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
Let's share that.
But the sound is awful.
I think we're good, Patrick. That was just to give a little taste of collaborations we have done. Thank you, thank you. My name is Lemus Bolaños Woma. I'm the proud founder and artistic director of Sarasota Contemporary Dance, which we just finished our 15th season production this past weekend. So you have me in the aftermath of a production weekend, which we were so thankful to have a live performance again. For those of you who do not know where we're located, we're neighbors. We're right here on the 3rd floor on Central and Boulevard of the Arts. We have this beautiful balcony here in the Rosemary District. And I'm gonna just take you a quick little tour. We do have adult classes here. We have also SCDE, which is Sarasota Contemporary Dance Ensemble, which is a it's a company for rising dancers. And it's in its 2nd season, and it's actually having a performance here in 2 weeks. I want to also introduce you to Melissa Rummel.
Hello.
Do you want to tell them what you do?
Yes, I am the studio coordinator. So I help plan classes. I organize it with the teaching artists that we have. And I'm also the associate director for SCDE, our training company. So I work with them every Wednesday night.
And she actually was performed in the video that you saw. She's been in the company for 7 seasons now. So we love Melissa. So here we have, I love to have local artists. So we have photography here as well. We have Sorka as well. So this is our home studio. This is what I call our board member family style table. We like to have the dancers eat there. Coming through here, we have our office, which is actually a working office. I have someone working in there right now, but it's also our box office. So if you come and you want to purchase tickets, you can do that. Here's an elevator. You don't have to go three flights up. And this is our studio. We have one large studio with sprung floor and mirror on one side just because the dancers really wanted it, but I actually didn't want mirrors in the studio. We also have black curtains. We got funding recently to get black curtains. And as you see, we have LED lights. So it's a fully, I don't know if I'm moving too fast. I had a lot of coffee today. So I don't know if you can see, but it's a fully functioning studio for production as well. My heart has always been, my parents, all my training came from the public school system. So I believe arts in the schools. All my training in the magnet school program down in Miami. And so when we had the opportunity to have a space, I mentioned to the board, I don't know what it is to go to a dance studio. I never went to a dance studio. All my training came from the public school system. And then in college, going to FSU and my master's at Florida State University and my undergrad at University of Florida. But I do know what it is to be a choreographer and not have space and having to rent space. And I also know what it is to have to present work and present yourself and have to pay for that. So we try to make it a little easier for artists here locally. And we have an in-studio series where we've presented over already 30 artists in the last 3 years that we've been in the space. And we present artists from rising choreographers that have never been presented to more established choreographers that maybe are being overlooked or they just don't have access to a residency space to create work. And now we have classes here, adult classes every day, Monday through Saturdays, beginning to intermediate advanced levels. So this is truly a dream come true. It's very rare to have a contemporary dance company for 15 years. Like my friends in other cities are like, what? How do you do? And I said, well, a lot of prayer and a great community that supports the arts. Yeah, and this, I just found out from Melissa, we had an admin meeting today and all of our summer programs are at capacity. We have one in May, we have one in June, we have in July. So we have people coming from all over. And so it's so exciting to be able to even offer this, you know? So we're seeing the light from this pandemic. Any questions for me? I think I maybe have 3 more minutes. No? Anything about myself, the studio, the company, when our next production is?
We can sure tell you love your job. That's one thing that really comes through. So thank you for sharing all this. This is really special and really something extra special to have in our community. Thank you. For
And I
what you
see
do.
some familiar faces. Hey, Alan.
So I do have a question. Aside from your scheduled performance there, do you have groups that go out and have doing performances, small groups, in like in the different condos or different venues?
We have, and we're actually known for doing that. Because we're contemporary dancers, we can get creative on flooring, and we've done site-specific work. We've performed at the Dolly Museum, the Ringling Museum, so we're used to having to adapt to spaces. And for a long time, we didn't have a space, so we had to be performing in the community.
Yeah, there's been some suggestions to try and work with the city Parks and Rec to do some events in some of our downtown parks, either like at Five Points or Thorpe Park.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And we also have SCDE, our second company. So that's something that they've done. They've actually performed 2 years ago, obviously before the pandemic, at several assisted living and senior communities as well. All right. Well, I think my time maybe is done, but I did want to let you know to please tune in tomorrow night, PBS, Greater Sarasota. They're featuring 5 arts organizations and telling our story. We're one of the stories. So if you want to learn a little bit more about my background, it also highlights one of our dancers and our longtime founding board member, Muriel Mayers, which we just honored her this past weekend with a tribute concert. And they actually made me the host of the show. So check it out. It's at 8 o'clock on PBS tomorrow night.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Adios. Bye. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Jamie.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, folks. I think next up is the status of the annual condo survey. Bob and Patrick, but Bob, oh, yes, Peter.
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate place, but I had talked to you earlier about maybe adding an item into the new business section. We can take this up later, but I would like to take it up when there's enough board members available to vote on a
Okay.
motion.
I'm sorry, Peter. I acknowledged the phone call with you earlier today where we agreed to add that. So I was jumping to old business, but please go ahead with the item that you and I believe Kathy have discussed, and I agree with.
Just quickly, I'll try to be as quick as I can. And Kathy Sellers and I have been working on this along with a couple other folks for longer than a couple of days. It's been, I think my first email on this was back, I don't know, maybe April or early May at least. But anyway, and the reason I want to bring this up at this point in time is that something's coming up at the City Commission on May 17th, and that'll be before we have another board meeting. Normally, I would try to get this on the agenda in time for the Dsca board to take a position. We would like to take the position that part of this, an integral part of the city is its parks, and that we need to develop some orderliness around the parks. And Jerry Fogel, Director of Parks and Recreation, will be speaking and bringing forward a proposal on May 17th that will address a standard universal time for openings and closings. Will address the need for certain exceptions to those openings and closings, and will provide a avenue by which the city manager could promulgate certain rules of regulation in the city parks. Given that, I'd like to move that the Board of Directors of the Downtown Sarasota Condominium Association strongly urge and recommend that, one, the Sarasota City Park hours be modified so that the parks within the city have a universal standard open and closing time, which will be a opening of 5 a.m. and a closing of 11 p.m. That exceptions to these times be as recommended by Jerry Fogel, Director of Parks and Recreation. The opening and closing times now don't really recognize that places like Suprito Pier, which is a fishing venue, needs to be open 24 hours reasonably, and other areas, and certain parts of the bayfront have fishing areas and so forth, that people who are leaving venues that are open past 11 o'clock can walk through parks, maybe even sit on a bench on the way through a park if they get tired, so that you know, we can use the shortcuts of parks and not be in violation of the present ordinance. And then that the park use regulations at section 22.6 authorize the city manager in coordination with appropriate other officials and in consultation with Dsca to promulgate park rules as necessary to regulate the use of city parks. So I would like that to be a motion that we would be able to support Jerry, the initiative that'll be brought up on May 17th at the City Commission meeting.
I'd like to second that.
Oh,
And I would just comment, just comment on that, that this is, was discussed at CCNA, virtually identical to this. And I think that we had good support at that meeting. So I would be in favor of this motion myself. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Hearing no discussion.
No, Alan and
There's plenty of
Patrick
discussion.
Yeah, I
Oh,
do.
yeah.
I like the second half of that motion, that there be regulations with respect to the uses of the park. I'm not sure I quite understand why every park has to have the same opening and closing times, particularly when it's evident from the exceptions that every park is different. I'm not sure who this serves. You know, somebody at the last meeting, I think, said that they certainly know how to read the signs. If a park is closed, then people should be not there. If it's open, then they're permitted to be there. So I'm not sure what regulating times, when every park has its own unique character, accomplishes. I think the second half of the resolution that talks about regulating how parks are used makes a lot more sense than regulating the times of use. Particularly when it's self-evident. There are so many exceptions that, you know, what's the point? But maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that. I think one of the main reason, and I think the crux of the whole thing, is Jerry Fogel wants to be able to adjust whatever park time, whatever the purpose might be. He wants to be able to go before the city manager instead of having it to go before a commission and a vote, to always have to go before the commission to have certain things changed or amended. He would like to see the park rules enforced. And I think that the way it was stated before, and you can all correct me, if there was just parks are opened until, I mean, everyone has to clear out at 2:30 until 5:30 in the morning, which was somewhat ridiculous. I mean, you know, we had a whole host of problems by Five Points Park and of course Thorpe and, you know, Bayfront. I think it gives them the opportunity to get in there, get it cleaned, do it to try to manage the parks if we can get everyone out at a certain time. But I think that there are going to be exceptions, and I think Jerry Fogel wants to be able to make those, or be able to make those calls without having to go before a commission and have it voted on.
Well, maybe I'm just unaware of the problems that have existed.
No more.
But it doesn't seem to me to be a particularly difficult thing if they want to clean the park. The fact that Jerry Fogel wants it doesn't, to me, indicate that we should necessarily support it. If it makes sense, yes, we should. I'm just not sure that it's making sense to me, but that's maybe just me.
Ted Wilson, who's on the prep board. Ted, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I've been involved with this thing since it started. Actually, it goes back into late February, early March. Jerry and I started talking about it. And the reason that he wanted the uniform hours, I think, is as much for maintenance as it is for enforcement, to where he knows he's going to have parks available at certain hours on a regular basis to be able to do maintenance and repairs on them. So I think that comes into it some, Alan, that we haven't even talked about here. As far as having certain parks, certain hours, you know, it probably could work. The thing that doesn't bother me as much as the second part of the resolution is that he and the city manager can basically make rules in the park with very little consultation with the neighborhoods that are involved. And that's why when we talked about this once before, I sure wanted to have the resolution from Dsca to mention that not just downtown, but all neighborhoods should have some kind of consultation prior to the implementation or decision on these park rules that may be promulgated in the future. And I think we'd be, I keep harping back to the same thing that we had with the administrative approval in the planning commission that Patrick had to go through, in that all of a sudden we have an administrative approval of rules in the parks. And I think somewhere that never has been acceptable to us here in Sarasota. And I don't think it would be in this case either. So that's my comments.
Let me just quickly answer that. I put in the consultation with Dsca because that's the neighborhood that I'm representing. I felt it would be a little bit presumptuous of me to talk about what Arlington would be, or Towles Court, or some of the other areas that CCNA represents. And I understand that CCNA will be likely supporting this initiative. And I would guess that they would want to be consulted too. I only wanted to address what's specific to the Dsca, and I would like the Dsca to be consulted when there's going to be a change, especially with the downtown park.
David?
Well, yeah, I would, yeah, Patrick.
Peter, I appreciate, and Kathy bringing the motion forward. However, whatever you verbally said a few minutes ago, I don't recall the words, and therefore I'm going to have a hard time voting on a motion that I don't have it in front of me to read. I'm in favor of the concept, which what I'm trying to understand is this motion, how different is it from what we voted on that we sent back to CCNA?
It does not change the intent of what we sent the Dsca, but I believe it clarifies some of the language that was used in the CCNA recommendation.
Okay, well, motions like this should be submitted in writing so we can include it in the board packet for future meetings. Thank you, Peter.
Understood, yes.
Well, I'm inclined to favor the motion in the interest of time, and then it's been discussed before. And I take Patrick's point about procedure here on this, but I believe that it would be timely and required. And if no parliamentarian in the crowd here has a terrible objection to it, I would say we take a vote. Is your concern that big, Patrick, that you really feel it needs to be pulled?
Well, I would like to have had the words up, but as long as they're sent to Jamie, so we can get it into the minutes, that way we'll at least have in the minutes what we voted on, even though some of us may not remember what the words are we're voting on. So please proceed.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have a vote? All those in favor, raise your hand, please. And I'm seeing Roger. How are you in voting in favor, sir? No. Okay. So what, I'm seeing all the faces on the screen here. It's hard to tell. Let's do a roll call. Patrick,
Patrick raised his hand.
Patrick?
I don't know if you want a verbal or
Okay.
raise a hand.
Here, Kathy raised her hand.
Yes.
Roger did not. Ken did. Jamie
Yes.
did not raise her hand.
No, I did.
Yes, she did.
I did. You're cutting out, David.
And Bob. Oh, man. So,
All right. we
Jamie,
lost
did you
David,
get that?
So I'm
I
taking
did.
over. So we have what, 9, all those against then?
Yeah, I need to know that for the
Who
minutes.
voted
I-
against?
David.
Alan
Okay.
against, Roger, were you voting against or not? 2 against?
Against.
All right, so that was 8 in favor and 2 noes, right? Was any abstention?
Who are the
Yeah, I'm
no's?
an abstention. I had to abstain. I'm dealing with a work emergency, so I didn't hear what you're voting on. So I'm abstaining.
Okay, so 2 noes and 1 abstain, so that'd be 7 yes. Okay, thank you.
Patrick, who are
yes.
the no's?
Oh.
Barry and who else?
Alan?
Yes.
It was Alan. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, then let's go on to the next old business item and the status of the condo survey. Bob Perola, please.
Patrick, I'm going to probably shoot this right back to you, but you all know that the survey has gone out. The information is coming back to Patrick, and I think he can best keep us all updated on the status of it.
Well, just in terms of the number of surveys, we received 18 surveys out of the 40 members that were engaged with that. So we still have, we're not even to 50% yes. So we really do need to actively engage. I know that Bob and our consultant Sheila have been in touch with most of the condos that have not submitted yet and are working with them on that. There are some who have submitted surveys, forms, but have left off some of the financial data. And one of the things we've been encouraging as we talk to realtors out there, information such as the maintenance fees that are paid by condos are known by the realtors. And we felt that that's not necessarily hidden information, but as a organization, we don't have a understanding of that, and getting that information will be powerful. Right now, one of the things that we'll be talking about here is, as we talk about the downtown area and what our impact is, well, one of the figures we're trying to look at is what is the annual spend of the aggregate of the Dsca condos? Based upon some preliminary estimates, we're being told that we rank in the top 20 in the county and top 5 in the city in terms of size of it. If you have a company that employed as many people as the aggregate of all of our condos and spent as much money of the maintenance fees in the local economy, what size company would that be? And that's we're trying to get to basically understand is that the condominiums, while we have residents, we are also, the condominium associations are businesses, Florida corporations, nonprofit corporations operating in the city of Sarasota, and the aggregate business impact of those condominiums is a significant dollar spend. And that's what we're trying to get to from this survey and that financial data. So I'll kick it back to you, Bob, in terms of how do we encourage and how do we deal with the report coming out with that information?
Well, what we're going to continue to do, obviously, is follow up with the individual condominium associations. You know, some boards are reluctant to release it. I think once they understand how that information is going to be used, they'll probably be a little bit more amenable to that idea. The other thing I think we should discuss just a little bit is how are we going to distribute this information? Who is going to be eligible to see it? Do we want to parse it so that there's some just general information will be on one sort, and then have a sort with all the financial information, and then where will that all be shared with? I sort of suspect that all this information is, once this is complete and it's published, it'll find its way into the public domain anyway. But it'd be interesting to hear what others think we should be doing with all this information once it's completed. And I think David's gone again.
Well, is the general,
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Clark.
are we getting much resistance from condos on the financial? I mean, is it the kind of thing where if we guarantee, okay, well, if it's not I mean, so they wouldn't mind having their name published with their numbers as opposed to publishing anonymously their numbers. So if there's no pushback, then that's a moot point.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's some of them, I would say maybe it's 30% that have not returned financial data, just roughly numbers. So it impacts our ability to aggregate on the one hand. I think part of what Bob is saying is there a mechanism that we could or should employ that at least identifies the report as being copyright, proprietary, classified, you know, is there, I'm not a lawyer myself, so I don't know basically how makes we do this, but in a way that says, hey, this is not general public information. Don't send it around publicly. It's what I would, in the business world, I would say is company confidential. You know, for distributors the intent was to distribute it only to the condominium members who actually submitted a report, their own survey. So if some of our members don't submit, then they would not receive the composite report. It was the intent going in. The question is, how can we identify the report, mark it in some way that puts people on notice that it's not for general distribution, public distribution.
And we could put together a list without the financial information, perhaps just as general information that the condominium associations, their websites, their phone numbers, their contacts, that sort of thing, that could be distributed a little bit more freely. So I think it's something to think about. Like, you know, hopefully by our next meeting we'll have most of the responses in and a lot of the information completed.
Yeah, as Patrick said, so much of this information, I mean, financial, is available to all the
It's online.
realtors in the city, and of course all the clients that they deal with. So I don't know why people need to feel so proprietary about their numbers. Anyway, maybe they think they're going to embarrass somebody or get one of their residents upset about publishing their numbers. I don't know.
Well, you can go on to We Sell Sarasota, for instance, anyone, and look up any condo. And if there's a condo for sale, you can see what the maintenance fee per.
Yeah, certainly the maintenance. So that's easy.
Yeah. So you can
I guess part of the answer is how did we intend to use the data? I'm inclined to think that the financial stuff in the aggregate makes sense because we're trying to make a point I think, as Patrick said, about the economic engine that we are. I don't think necessarily we're trying to compare one condo versus another economically. Each is different. So I would opt, to the extent that we can, as we aggregate the numbers, the financial data, and not identify, if people don't want it, not identify them that way individually.
That certainly could be done in just in terms of, since it's coming back to us in a master spreadsheet with all the data columns and then the rows of the different condos, and we could simply go through and, you know, remove the financial data columns and, you know, put that into a different section of the report that's aggregate, divided by revenues per unit, things like that. There's certainly one way. One of the other suggestions would be to, we could publish it without the condo names on it, but some of those would be fairly relative, you know, in terms of number of units. Some of them you could pretty well guess who that might be, et cetera. So
another approach might be, instead of doing it just in we could do it in the aggregate, but we might also consider doing a range in saying that of the, let's say, 30 responders, the range of these costs or budgets are from X to Y. And that'll give some sense of what the buildings look like without naming the buildings.
Okay.
I was going to similarly suggest that approach, Alan, in that when I was president of a condominium board, et cetera, I always wanted to know, especially at budget time, where were we in relationship? In other words, we didn't want to be the lowest, we didn't want to be the highest necessarily, but I think if you published a range with a floor, a ceiling, a median, and a mean, that would give people a lot of information that's useful without divulging any proprietary information.
Yeah, exactly. I know our board is always, I'm not on the board any longer, I used to be, but always was interested in knowing where we stand relative to other condos for marketing purposes. So I think that might have some legs.
Do we do a small, medium, and large sort of thing? I mean,
Well,
are the numbers
I think
for the smaller condos going to be in a whole different range than on a per unit basis than if a place like 1350 with 135 units?
And there are some condos that, regardless of the size, charge exactly the same rate per unit. So they don't necessarily have a, say, per square foot number. So we're going to have to do a little math work on that. But it's I think we'll get a better idea by our next meeting. Once we have, say, 25 or 30 of these returns in, and we can start seeing a trend, what kind of trend in numbers we're getting. And there too, Sheila particularly, and I will be contacting some of these associations. If the manager is reluctant, contact a board member there to see if we can get as much information as we possibly can.
I think we've got a great condo survey committee, and I would leave it to them to bring a recommendation based on this discussion rather than having 11, 12 of us trying to figure out how to do this.
Okay.
Good idea.
Ted Wilson.
One of the things, Bob, that we talked about when we were building the survey also is the age of the condominium and being of value in knowing the financial relationships, because the older buildings cost more to run. They have cast iron problems and a variety of things that they're having to address now. So I think we need to consider age when we start doing the aggregate. Thank you.
Ted, you're absolutely right. I just got the survey in for the Boulevard Sarasota. Incredibly low financial rates. I mean, they did put the numbers in there, and it's the lowest cost, but that's basically the turnover fees, the turnover rates that they put in there, which
Right.
basically says everything's brand new. You don't need any maintenance fees or very little reserves, So
Okay.
I absolutely right. We'll factor those. I think once we have the data, we can begin to look at ways to aggregate it and then show that in different graphical forms and so forth. So.
Okay.
Okay, shall we move on? Then,
Kathy had her hand up quickly there. So.
Yeah, just a quick question. I guess just getting back to that point that you made about Boulevard of the Arts. I mean, we obviously have not transitioned from developer to owner. So we are going to, these are very, very important questions for us. And is there a way that we can source these so that if someone, like when we do have a board, that they would be able to go to and pick like buildings such as or the View? This would be very, very important information. Is there going to be a source that we can go to say, hey, can we look at the surveys that came in from, the View and Boulevard of the Arts or whatever it may be? Will we have a data or a resource for that?
Well, what we have data-wise is going to be a master spreadsheet, composite spreadsheet. And then from that, what I think we're going towards is some sort of report that would have the information kind of in groupings. Because there was different sections of the questions. And I think providing the report back, so there'd be a financial thing, another thing on staffing, another thing on parking, et cetera. So segmenting it in that way so it's an easy to read, understandable report for that. But at the bottom line is a spreadsheet. And I think the question here is that master spreadsheet would allow you to say, okay, slice and dice, give me all condos that are less than 5 years old. And what's the average there or the range, et cetera. So,
okay. All right, good. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Bob, anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Back to you.
All right.
David?
Thanks, Bob, for all you've done in that. And then moving on is city update. And in meetings past, John Moran would have been giving that update. Is there any, Mayor Brody discussed, some things already about the city. Is there anybody that would like to mention anything in terms of a city update similar to what John has done in the past?
Yes, I'll just attend by Zoom the DID meeting, Downtown Improvement District. And the project they're focusing on is revamping the 1400 and 1500 block of Main Street. They're the same group that did the 1300 block 3 or 4 years ago. And so they'd like to put this on, they are putting this on their agenda about how to accomplish this and partnering with the city. I think this will probably be a pretty important project for downtown. And then the second thing that happened in the meeting was an extensive discussion about how to recover from the COVID pandemic to deal with making downtown an exciting and vibrant place with events and other activities. And so that's another discussion that's going on. That's pretty much what was accomplished in that meeting yesterday.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Anybody else? No, hearing nobody, shall we move along to committee status reports? First up, Jamie with the Associate and Events Committee update for us.
Yeah, Patrick, I just wanted to see if you could pull up the flyer. I just wanted to share a flyer about our upcoming webinar in June, and that will be on June 16th via Zoom. So we have some speakers lined up. And Patrick's still there.
Yep. Hang on. Just
no problem.
Where is it? Where to go?
I don't know if we need approval for this or I just need to show it to everybody.
Share. Should be there.
Yep, that's it. It doesn't have the date, but we do have one new one that has the date, and the date is June 16th. It will be from 4 to 5:30, and we do have our panelists listed there. So
Great.
as long as we don't need a vote on that, Patrick. It's just
I think it was part of our event schedule, and
Yep.
the events committee was targeted to do this. This is going to be a webinar via Zoom, so.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, that concludes
Okay,
my report.
Jamie. Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And then moving on to green space, Patrick.
The only thing I had to report was the city's review of the tree mitigation that was, I guess, voted into by the city commission. And so that's one big thing that has happened, and obviously working with other things we can do here on the walkability side is, I think, the key focus we have going forward here.
Okay. Okay, Peter on homeless committee.
Just quickly, and I'll be brief. We are the homeless committee and the residents in an ad hoc committee. I'm calling it an ad hoc committee. I don't know. The board may have to come back at some point and appoint an ad hoc committee, but we have issues that are coming up that cross the boundaries of several areas that primarily are being driven by homeless concerns. And one of them is enforcement of ordinances, for instance. And of course, that crosses over into enforcement of sound ordinances and vagrancy ordinances and panhandling ordinances, et cetera. So we have an exciting group of people primarily made up of newer residents. And so we're looking at trying to incorporate in the homeless committee some of those concerns, as well as branching out to be more comprehensive in the homeless committee, not only dealing with specific homeless issues, but also trying to experience or have experiences with what the residents actually are incurring as they move about downtown, and how to make that a better experience for them in relationship to the homeless committee. So I will be bringing back essentially a white paper, likely at the next meeting, that the homeless committee will have put together by the June meeting, I hope.
Okay, thank you, Peter. On the Health and Safety Committee, which is an open position, but in the last few meetings, I've given a COVID update, and I circulated to you all yesterday or the day before the COVID charts. I don't have those to show right now, but if you looked at those, you will have seen that the trend is down over the last 14 days in the neighborhood of 30%, both county-wise, and the city zips are pretty similar rates of descent at this point. But other than that, I guess we would note that the mask ordinance that Commissioner Jen had was bringing forward has been pulled because of a governor's edict or order or whatever the heck it is. So that's off the table. But unless anybody has any questions, that's all I've got on the COVID situation. Okay, transportation, Roger?
Well, not much news in that regard. Of course, the trolley for St. Armand's from downtown continues to progress evidently, and they're hoping to start that by autumn. For other transportation issues, the FDOT put out a map of how you walk around the construction at Gulfstream, which is going to be an interesting inconvenience for many of us for some time. And so as I thought about that, I thought, we got a lot of new people. Why are we doing these things? Why are we building the Gulf Stream roundabout? And so just a moment, I want to say why. And that's because roundabouts are safer, more efficient than red light intersections for both traffic and pedestrians. They reduce traffic fatalities by 90% and injuries by 75%. And for pedestrians, it reduces the chances of being hit by 30 to 40%. The other point of that, well, it will significantly improve connectivity and walkability between downtown Sarasota and the Bay. And this has been a 10-year plan that slowly is coming to fruition. So residents where I live will be safer walking downtown. I live on the west side of 41. And of course, the other reason is for traffic efficiency. It improves traffic capacity from 30 to 50%. And this would be a real advantage for the Barrier Island residents and visitors. And of course, they reduce pollution, they improve traffic flow and fuel use, and they save money on red light equipment, and they operate during hurricanes. So anyway, that's why this is being done. And I'm pretty excited about it. I just have to live through it. And I hope that will be the case.
Okay, Roger, thank you.
I'm sorry. I need to introduce Alan.
Oh, I can
Right.
introduce myself.
Okay.
Thanks, Roger. I have nothing to report this month.
Okay.
Okay, and then next up is going to be zoning. Drew, what do you have for us? I know we talked earlier about the noise or sound related developments, but what comments might you have?
Thank you, David. I would like to say, first of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, fine.
Yep.
Roger, let me just say that thank you for your information in regard to 1300, 1400 Main Street. That's right around the corner from me. And so you filled me in on things that I think are very important. I'm always humbled to be around such a group of dedicated individuals to this community. Kathy, Ken, Jamie, Bob, Alan, Ted, makes me feel good to have you people be so involved and take this so seriously, because this is where we live and we would like to see this beautiful place continue to be beautiful. Let me talk about the zoning committee meeting. We had a spirited zoning committee meeting on the 26th, and it was attended by Ron Collins, Patrick Gannon, David, and myself. I'll just go over two of the topics that I thought were very important. One was the designation of primary grid street. This in regard to the Coconut Avenue between Boulevard of the Arts and Fruitville. This is a zoning change. It affects the setbacks and the compatibility and the step down, the staging plans. The more we look at this, the more we realize we have to be involved up front on these things. The second thing I want to talk about is the it's something that really don't have any we don't have any authority over. And God bless them, the film festival is having their film festival at the new headquarters at 332 Coconut, and they're having they've got a permit to have a big party, which is great. And they are by this permit, which is under the zoning code, no outdoor music permitted unless you have a permit and you pay the fee and you can have a permit. So they're allowed 100 decibels. Now, I've been battling decibels for the last 2.5 years. And I can tell you that 45 decibels at 100 yards is really too loud. Anyway, this is something I really can't do about, it could do anything about. The zoning code allows this if you apply for the permit. The other thing that came about from the zoning code committee, which was robust, and we had a lot of rocking and rolling, was the continuing fact that 20% of our city population resides in downtown Sarasota condominiums. 20% is a lot. And I think that with our survey, with what we're doing, I think that we have some heft. We might want to take a little advantage of it and maybe establish our own mandate. We're getting involved. Maybe there's an opportunity to be more involved. Anyway, that's the report from the zoning committee. There's some sound, traffic, vehicular noise, outdoor music noise topics. Maybe we can discuss them offline or whatever at David's discretion. But I want to thank you all again. You've all been excellent, excellent servants of our community. And that's what we need, people who volunteer their time. Thank you so much.
Well, the one thing, Drew, that came up during the mayor's mention was the sound ordinance, and then the recent petition work of, and I can't remember exactly what the group is called, but Elke is on the Zoom here with about 550 signatures.
Right.
And I guess the $64 question is, I guess at this point, Dsca has not jumped in, shall we say, to this issue. And it does appear to me, at least, there are the one group seems to be somewhat focused on vehicular noise, right? And the other group is maybe a balance between amplified music or music sound and vehicular. And as we talk here today, Bob Fournier is said to be working on a sound ordinance that could reappear before the city commission in a couple weeks, for all we know. And the question is, at this point, there has been no engagement with resident groups that I'm aware of, you know, for the vetting or the, you know, face-to-face on things. And I was wondering, Patrick, you may have some thoughts on this. Can you and I talked about this earlier today. Can you help sort us through what Dsca may have done in the past and your thoughts on what we should or shouldn't do here?
Well, I guess specifically the question is on the sound ordinance revisions that City Attorney Fournier is working on, is how to essentially petition to have him engage with a residents group, with the Dsca, essentially to get input from us to discuss those options before it comes back in front of the City Commission for any approval there. And so that would be the suggestion. Or if he doesn't feel like he can do that on his own, then it's a matter of then getting in front of the commissioners to have them ask Fournier to meet with the resident group. But hopefully you might be able to simply reach out to City Attorney Fournier and saying we would like to schedule a Zoom meeting to review that prior to it going in front of the City Commission. So since this downtown residents will be more highly impacted by the effects of that, any changes to the sound ordinance. I mean, was that essentially what, Drew, what your petition was about?
Excellent, Patrick. Thank you very much. There are two petitions and they go hand in hand. Elka is with the Bayfront Noise and Speeding Abatement Committee. They've been really successful. There's a lot of noise along Bayfront. This is in front of Marina Jack and so forth. They've established with Florida DOT taking down the speed limit, reducing it, having signs up there to show what your speed is, and having a patrol car out there, and also occasionally police having handheld decibel meters so they can see if a car is loud or whatever. What I am doing on my own, Patrick, is a petition to the city commission to request that they establish a committee of city residents to assist them in changing or not changing the current city sound ordinance. Now, I'm sure Ken is very familiar with this because he's been involved with this topic forever. What we're trying to do, and I've made contact so far, I just started a week ago Friday, but I have signatures from Arlington Park, Laurel Park, the acres, whatever it is called, I don't know. But 7 condominiums downtown, individual homeowners in Sarasota, Harbor Acres, I'm sorry, and business owners. So we're trying to get the commission to say to us, yes, we will establish a committee of Sarasota city residents, and you may help us in changing or not changing this sound ordinance. Where, as far as the initial draft that I saw, the city staff, and they're hardworking people, want to increase the decibel level, increase the time that the decibels can occur. They want to remove language such as health, well-being, peaceful repose, property values, audible, plainly audible, and nuisance. This is a concern for those of us who live downtown. I think Mayor Brody's on the right track. Let's help Sarasota be vibrant, and people come here. But there are a lot of condominiums around these restaurants here, and 7 of them right now are gathering signatures. I know the Clark is with 1350 Main. I've seen that petition. I think there are 17 people who signed that petition within 2 seconds saying, enough already. L. Melvin, please, what are you doing to us?
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, Drew. Okay.
Yes.
Drew, just are your group and the other noise group with represented by Elke, are you folks coordinating or cooperating, or would you consider blending your organizations for and what may I draw in, if this is protocol? Okay, you are on the call. Could you briefly describe what you've submitted your petition of around 550 names to Marlin a few days ago? What is the next step you would like to see from your organization's standpoint?
Okay, have you unmuted me? Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Yes, we can hear. We can hear you.
But there's no video yet, right? There. Okay.
That's right. Oh, there we go.
The letter from the committee, which consists of the Bayfront condo buildings, was sent to the city manager, Marlon Brown, the mayor, Mark Mathis, who is the head of Florida DOT, because the Bayfront Road and the bridge are state roads, and that seems to have been the problem in the past. The state roads and the city roads and the speed limit and what can be done by Sarasota police, and that's been an issue in the past. But a letter was sent to these people, and the petitions went to Liz Alpert, who is the District 2 Commissioner, and the city manager. So hopefully they will work with this attorney Fournier and come up with some kind of enforcement of the decibels and what the cars can and cannot do. We have pictures of the cars that are offenders. We have pictures of the license plates. We have videos. And from the condos along the bayfront, you can hear these cars all the way along the bayfront going over the bridge with their glass packs. And I mean, the noise is just terrible, especially at night when they think there's no police available to stop them.
Okay, but with this said, is it your intention for your group to hope your letter does the talking for you, and that Mr. Fournier, when he comes back to the commission with a draft ordinance, your hope is to wait until you see this next draft before a next step by your organization?
Yes. I mean, there are over 2,000 bayfront condominium owners, taxpayers, and hopefully the over 550 signatures on the petition will confirm the seriousness of this traffic issue that's been, it's been avoided. It's been a long time issue. So just nobody's done anything about it.
I think the
So I'm
question
hearing
before us as the DSCA board is this a set of issues that DSCA, should take a vote on one or either of the petitions in supporting that? It sounds to me like the Traffic Noise Abatement Committee is actively working more on enforcement issues, whereas what Drew's petition is focused on is the upcoming revisions to the sound ordinance, how whatever effect that would have both on amplified music versus traffic noise. I think it's more focused on the amplified music side of the noise, but it may touch on other sound ordinance, may touch on other traffic noise too. So
I think they go hand in hand,
yeah, okay.
Enforcement of the decibels.
Well,
And,
my read is where we're at, where Fournier is, his ordinance may be imminent, that to add another cook to the stew here might make things even more confusing. And it seems like, okay, your group and Drew, your efforts, maybe the way to handle this is Dsca kind of table this for now. Let's watch and see what ordinance comes before the commission, what kind of provisions are in there, what kind of enforcement. I think Roger was reported anecdotally some increased enforcement over where he was, and that rather than Dsca jumping in now and being maybe a more confusing than helpful, wait and see how things go in the next couple weeks, revisit this next month. Is that something that people would be in agreement with on our board? Is there a consensus? Patrick, do you have a different view?
Well, there's a couple of other hands that were raised I'd like to hear. Mike Geisler, and I think somebody else had their hand raised on this.
Yeah, if I could go ahead and say a couple of things. This is Mike Geisler, and I'm a resident at the Mark and been very involved with the sound ordinances and working with Dan Lobeck on the Rafferty's issue and with Robert Fournier related to his draft of the sound ordinances. And myself and a few others have given him quite a bit of input on this. And just today I heard from him that the presentation of the ordinances has been delayed yet again, and it's not going to be coming up in the next month. The last time he wanted to present it was back in September, so it's 6 months before it was even discussed again. And as you remember, a month ago, they even pulled it off the agenda.
Right.
So I think it's delay. The problem we all have is we have a very disjointed effort here. Elke, I've never met you and did not know about your partition. Drew, you actually had sent me an email because you were on one of the email chains that we sent, and we never got connected. But I think we should really, maybe a group of us get together from these different groups and come up with a concentrated, focused effort. I do know they look at this as what should the ordinances be And then the second question is how they should be enforced. But I have the feeling that we're just not organized enough. We told Robert Fournier that we would give him all the help he needed and form a committee to do this. And his response was probably a legal response. I'm not allowed to accept input from anybody. And we suggested, could the city form a workshop or a blue ribbon committee to do this? And we didn't get anywhere with that, although we haven't presented that idea to the city commission themselves. But I get the feeling that we need to get all of us together. There's very serious sound problems, whether it's from vehicles, motorcycles, or excessive sound. The city seems to think a lot of downtown residents are opposed to music, and we aren't. Music is fine. We're opposed to excessive music, music beyond reasonable hours, and lack of enforcement. And I was chagrined to hear Mayor Brody's comments today that he just doesn't seem to be tuned into this, plus all the delays that we're seeing. So I'd be glad to get together with anybody, and I know Kathy Sellers very well, and Drew, I'll respond to your email, and maybe we can get together, and Elke, and we've had a lot of conversations with Dan Lobeck, he was instrumental in getting the Rafferty's proposal done. Also, Linda Sloan did a lot of work. She wrote that long, very well done letter to the city commission, but we're not organized. And I think it would be good if we got the key groups interested in this together to discuss the best strategy forward.
Mike, let me just respond to you before Peter comes in. I think this might be maybe an insight for you. The petition I'm circulating requests that the city commission establish a committee of Sarasota city residents. I have people in Longboat Key, as I said, Harbor Acres, all around the city, not just downtown. Because if you are in a neighborhood east of the trail and your backdoor neighbor wants to put up some speakers and play loud music at 12 o'clock at night and it's 84 decibels, they're allowed to do that. So the city's sound ordinance revisions that are being worked upon affects the entire city, not just downtown. But I agree that we need to get together and have some type of concerted effort. What I'm trying to do is pretty much bring the whole city together. I have friends all over. So that's what I'm trying to do. We should all get together. I agree.
Drew, let's share that information, because see, I was not even aware of the petition you're doing. Are you doing this yourself, or is this a Dsca petition?
No, me.
Okay. Well, that's why, Drew, I want to send you an email, and my fault, because you did send me one, and I will respond to it. And Elke and Linda Sloan, who's not on the Zoom, and maybe any others, Dan Lobeck, who's been very helpful to us with the background, we can get together and maybe we can get this committee, this residence committee form that you're talking about, to address all the issues.
That sounds good.
Okay, well, we've got a plan then, and get
what the plan seems to be is residents go off and do their own thing. I was suggesting here, if Mike and Drew and others are considerate of that, is something what Drew is looking at is the effectiveness of that would be through CCNA. If you want to do a citywide committee to inform the commission, advise the commission, then that's going to need to be run through CCNA, and Ted Wilson is our primary rep to do that. We need to organize. What I would suggest is that we actually, the president can form committees or task forces, is form a Dsca sound ordinance task force, ad hoc, just for not a full committee, but just so that we can have a person, we need a point person from the Dsca board, and then come back to the board with a recommendation as to what you want the Dsca board to take a vote on to support. A written petition, a written motion, or something like that. And then what do we want to take forward to CCNA before the next CCNA meet would be my strong suggestion here. So.
Very good.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. This is everybody. It seems like from what the mayor said that this is going to go away, and it's not going to go away. And so it's the pay me now or pay me later. Why don't you folks get together, get organized, bring it back to Dsca, see if it deserves more formality under the wings of Dsca. And we go from there. But the first thing seems to be get you folks talking amongst yourselves, and what petition is here and there, and then Drew, let's come back and talk about it more. Okay.
Yes, that sounds good. And Drew, it seems like you're the point person with Dsca on this, and so why don't we exchange some information and see where we go, and talking to the CCNA, that would be fine. That would be great. Yeah.
Okay, just let me say, the basic groundwork, the person who blazed the trail on this was Elka and her work with the Sound Abatement Committee. If she had not done this, I would not have a roadmap. So she's the pioneer. So thank you, Elka. But yes, Mike, I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Elka, I'll send you an email too, so we have all the information. Yeah.
We already have the laws. We need enforcement along the bayfront.
Perfect.
And if I can bring in something else, there was another motorcycle accident fatality this last weekend. And I understand that there is no law for motorcycle riders to wear helmets in Sarasota.
Right.
Do you know why that law was passed, or why there is no enforcement for helmets?
Maybe that, okay, with all due respect, that probably is a little outside of our agenda today, but certainly please bring it up in your group. And I'm afraid we're running late all over again. So, but thanks for your work, and thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank
next,
you.
Hey, David, Peter had his hand up here.
Okay.
Let me just.
Sorry, I'm not seeing that.
Oh, okay. I'm over here.
Okay, got it now.
Let me just say that there is precedent for what you're talking about with some modifications. This whole issue came up 10 years ago. That then city commission appointed a committee. Dsca was the lead agency. I was the chair of the committee. And we brought back recommendations. And I only want to caution you on a couple of things. Remember, Dsca represents condominium associations. The association represents residents. So if the residents have a set of issues they want to bring to Dsca, the Dsca board has to be cautious in knowing that the condominium associations, not just the residents, association boards support this. And I only say this because after my chairmanship, in which I was beaten up badly by many people who were residents, who said, you don't represent me. You don't represent my individual perspective. But I had the authority from the individual boards who said, yes, we want to address this issue. And we did. And much of what's in the present ordinance is a result of that committee's work 10 years ago, and is still there, but not being enforced. So I'd just like you to caution that there is a way to do this, but that the Dsca board needs to be cautious in the way it's going to approach its recommendations, as we lost probably 8 to 10 association memberships because of the position we took on this issue. And it took us several years to get those condominiums back into the association. Okay.
Well said. And thanks for that that historical perspective, and that was wise. So that said, moving on from zoning, Bob, do you have a Bay Park Conservancy update?
No, I don't.
Yay.
Okay. it seems like lots of good stuff going on over there, and that they're active on social media, so it's pretty easy to follow what they've got going on. Ted, on CCNA liaison, any report from CCNA?
Ted's back.
Is it my turn?
Ted? Yeah, yeah, CCNA.
The CCNA meeting that we had this last Saturday. It was interesting that this will affect the people on the water tower unit and the Ritz and so forth. The FDOT has found a reason for some of the flooding that happens there at Sunset and Gulfstream. And it turns out that there was a 12-inch pipe put in there when there should have been an 18-inch pipe put in there. Plus, they found blockage in the pipe that takes the rainwater out into the bay, and they're going to replace a couple of pieces of pipe that were clogged up. So that should help. Next thing that they reported on was the Osprey Bridge, which I know has created a whole variety of problems of Orange Street coming into downtown. They said that's going to open on the 11th of June is the official date that the Osprey Bridge will be opened up, so it'll take the traffic off of Orange some. Also, I don't know if you all realize that there was an announcement today officially, but they told us that the body cam program by the police is going to be starting up this week. And so you'll see some of those. Now, the big discussion that we had that I want to have, I don't know if the board wants to address or not, is accessory dwelling units. And there was extensive conversations about the proposed recommendation from the CCNA executive board. The membership told them that they basically wanted to have the membership vote on it individually by associations. So I need to have some kind of direction from the board on how they feel we should proceed with the accessory dwelling units. I know it does not affect condominiums at all, but we do have a vote at the table, and we can abstain or we can stay out of it if we want to. But it's a discussion that I've got to address some way. That's it.
Hey, Ted, I understood from the current ordinance or the current zoning on that ADUs are allowed in the downtown area, downtown zone district. So, but I don't already opted in.
Yeah, you're right, Patrick. They are allowed in downtown. There's no question about that. But you can't put an accessory dwelling unit in a condominium.
Right. So I don't know that.
I mean, we're a condominium association.
Right. So.
Yes, and we have a responsibility to protect the property values of those condominium units. And I think that this is an important issue for condominiums that have residential components next door and along the way. And I'm thinking, you know, Palm Avenue is an area that does have residential, could have accessory units and so forth. So
Peter, you're right. You're right. That's why I mean, I need some direction from the board on what you want me to, how you want me to handle this, and what you want me to vote.
Well,
I would suggest that your executive board look at it, David.
That sounds good to me. I think CCNA circulated a motion here just a couple of days ago, did they not?
Yes.
Asking for support. And
no, they asked for basically the neighborhoods to have their meeting and either approve or reject it or make modifications to it.
Yes, that's what I meant to say. But there is a written document that they are. So shall we, Peter, if the executive group take a look at that and then come forward with a recommendation? It certainly seemed to me to be a pretty well written document. So is that going to fill the bill, Peter, to protect the interest of our condo folks?
I think if you will accept some form of this motion, I move that the executive committee review the accessory unit information distributed by CCNA and be authorized to take a position on behalf of the board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Is there anybody opposed to that? Let me just ask that rather than because of the screen, the clumsiness of the screen thing. Is it acceptable to ask for consensus on that, Peter, or do we need a vote?
Well, you're either going to have a consensus or everybody who's presently present. Oh, no. We can afford one no vote without this thing passing with a quorum, I guess. We have a quorum still,
again,
so you
please.
can take a vote.
Yep. Okay, well then all those in favor, raise your hand.
You've got it.
And I'm seeing Jamie. Okay, so it looks to be unanimously adopted motion. Thank you, Peter. Any further discussion about that?
One last.
I was going to ask, that has not been sent out yet, right? To the members, board members?
No.
Okay.
No.
Peter, one thing I'd like to take it and tell you, the big controversy is whether this should be a citywide ordinance that was except for the barrier islands, and whether it should be by individual neighborhoods should have some kind of say on whether the ADUs were allowed in their neighborhood. That was the major discussion. So anyway, just let you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving ahead then, Rosemary District update, and some of that got a little bit discussed in with the mayor. I can tell you that the selection of the design firm to do the Rosemary Park is well underway, and hope to have interviewed firms and hopefully made a selection here in the next month. Other than that, from a Rosemary standpoint, I don't think I have anything else. Any questions? Okay. Moving on to our Platinum Associate news highlights. Can we kick it off here? Agnes, who's on the call here? And
was Kristen or Taylor? Are you going to?
I think Taylor's supposed to be handling it.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi there.
Thank you for the opportunity to support the Dsca and all their efforts. Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor with Core Marketing Solutions. We represent a portfolio of clients that can serve your home and associations. Most of our clients are Platinum members of the Dsca. CBiz is one of them. And I know that insurance rates have gone up dramatically for almost everyone. So at this point, what you want is best coverage and the best service. And Matt Mercier at CBiz can do that for you. Right Way Services is also a Platinum member who can help you with your emergencies, fire, water, mold, biohazard cleanup. Hurricane season is here, so if you do not have a disaster plan and are not on a priority list, please talk to Right Way about getting on a priority list. Professional Plumbing is another one of our clients that's a Platinum member. They provide you with 24-hour plumbing services and can professionally line your pipes. And lastly, we have Forge Engineering. I see Michael is here, so I will let him give you his spiel, but summer is a great time to get your projects done. So if you want to get in touch with them or any of our clients, you can contact me at taylor@coremarketingsolutions.net. Hope you guys have a great day.
So thank you, Taylor, and I hope you guys can hear me all right. Good evening and happy Mother's Day, first and foremost to all the mothers on the call. Forge Engineering, most of you know us, 25 years old, focus on high-rise, condominium, mid-rise association work. And as Taylor mentioned, the summer is a good time to get things done. But most importantly, you have budget season for most of your associations coming up in September, October. So now is the time to hop on reserve studies or updates if you're doing those. We also have hurricane season coming. So there's building envelope evaluations to make sure that you're sealed up and protected from the elements. We're here for you guys. We have 23 engineers on staff. We'll get you a proposal in a week. And we do lump sum billing, which is different than most engineering firms in your area. We're not taking a percentage of the job or anything like that. Change orders, it's lump sum billing. We're honest, ethical. So if you need anything, please give us a call. And great meeting, by the way.
Great. Is there anybody else? Have we gone through our list and of our other Platinum Associates?
I don't see anyone else on here. So David, we're down to comments from member representatives then, before we close.
Yeah. Any comments from others on the call, member representatives? Mark, anybody wishing to make any closing comments? Okay, well, thanks, everybody. I know we went fairly long, and the mayor, hopefully we all felt the conversation with the mayor was some information kind of came out of it. It's nice to have a dialogue with him. We certainly, I think we tried to make some areas of concern we have in the outreach of Dsca to on zoning matters and some of those key things. It certainly seemed like he maybe have been somewhat reluctantly, but we've got our foot in the door here on some of this. And I hope him having seen some of our population projections and everything, our drumbeat goes on about the size of Dsca and the growth we're going to experience. So any board members with anything final? Peter, anybody, something else to add?
Just one thing. I just wanted to clarify that what I heard Mayor Brody say is that he is looking at ordinances regarding vagrancy, just so that we make sure that we all understood that, because I am going to hold him to that. And I'll follow up with him on that. You know, he's talking about sound ordinances, but that was something that I just want to make sure that everybody heard the same thing I heard, because I will follow up.
Okay, well then, thanks Kathy and everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, same to you.